Alas, a disappointing season is finally over. Unlike 2023, the 2024 Texas Rangers will not win the World Series. But they did end their season in a similar fashion, winning their final 3 games of the year. We're going to break down this final weekend of Rangers baseball in 2024 and look ahead. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, before we get into a couple of great MLB debuts for some Rangers, some memorable firsts, and some memorable maybe final starts with the Texas Rangers. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Now, the Rangers, like last year, win their final 3 games of the season. Unfortunately for the Rangers, these final 3 games of the regular season were not the final games of the season in general, as they will not be back-to-back World Series champs. Now, we'll see next year if Bochy has just switched up the scenario, the formula, now that he is in the American League, to go with odd season magic as opposed to even season magic, and the Rangers go 3 out of 5 championships, just like he did in San Francisco. But alas, we will have to wait until next year to find that out, because the regular season is finally over. We made it. 162 in the books, no more in October. Sitting here recording on the final day of September, kept putting off recording this episode because I wasn't quite ready to say goodbye to the 2024 Rangers. As frustrating and upsetting and disappointing and honestly maddening as this season was at times, it was still Texas Rangers baseball. It was still baseball. And unfortunately, as much fun as I'm going to have watching this postseason and just remembering all the great moments from the Rangers postseason run to become champions last year, and it's going to be nice not being as stressed in the entire month of October as we all were last year, it's still, every time at the end of the season, game 162, no matter whether the Rangers are heading to the playoffs or not, it's just that little bit of baseball sadness hits me. Just the complete amnesia of forgetting everything that made me angry about this season, everything that made me frustrated, everything that made me scream into this very microphone or rip my hair out or whatever. All of that goes away after game 162, and you're thinking, okay, how much longer till we can do this thing again? Now, granted, this team has been so frustrating that a little bit of a break will be good for all of us, but alas, we have 178 more days until we see a regular season Texas Rangers baseball game again. And I'm thinking the 2025 team might look at least a little bit different from what we saw in 2024. Hopefully results will. But I want to get into this weekend of baseball, the last weekend recap that we have for this season. A clean sweep of the Angels, who end the year on, I believe, a 6-game losing streak. At least 6 games. I mean, they headed into this series against the Rangers, being swept by one of, if not the worst teams in the history of baseball in the Chicago White Sox. And then the Rangers sweep them in mostly undramatic fashion outside of the Saturday game. But I want to start in order with Friday's game. The Rangers jump out to an early lead. A 3-run first inning was all the runs the Rangers needed, especially with Jacob deGrom on the hill. Ends the year with a 1.69 ERA, 4 innings, 5 strikeouts, 0 walks in this one, just 4 hits and 1 earned run for the Rangers ace, looking like himself heading into the offseason, healthy and looking like the guy who the Rangers paid a whole boatload of money to throw baseballs real good. Now, the fastball velocity this year has just been sitting at 97.3 miles an hour, which is pretty far down from what Jacob deGrom had been doing basically since 2021. I mean, that 2020 season was phenomenal, and he probably could have been a 3-time in a row Cy Young winner had it not been for very good seasons from Yu Darvish and a guy I don't really want to talk about who unfortunately ended up winning the NL Cy Young that year. But since 2021, which is when he started having all of these injury problems, he's been throwing significantly harder, and he's been significantly less healthy than he had been in his career before that. But the numbers that he's been putting up since then, he has been basically untouchable. I mean, in those 15 starts that he had in 2021, he had a 1.08 ERA. A 1.08 ERA for half a season. Was on pace for about 180 innings and 300 strikeouts. The guy was just untouchable. He was not quite as untouchable in 2022. In 2023, he was better than his already very good numbers. And in these few starts, these 3 starts down the stretch in 2024, he looked more like himself. And if we see a little bit less, 101, 100, 102s on the gun from Jacob deGrom, but it means we get, 100, 102, 180 innings from Jacob deGrom. I think that might be a switch that he is willing to make. Now, I'm not thinking it's a 1-for-1 thing if he starts throwing 97 on average as opposed to 98 or 99, that he is not going to be injured at all. He's going into his age 37 season next year, and he has pitched 9 times for the Texas Rangers, a total of 41 innings in 2 seasons. That's not a whole lot of innings, but the innings that he has provided, those starts that he has provided, have been phenomenal. Sending him into this offseason completely healthy is a great thing for this Rangers team. He is going to be so important for this team bouncing back next year. And not only him doing well, but the rest of this bullpen mostly holding up and doing their part. Andrew Chafin coming in there and only walking his 2/3 of an inning. The rest of this bullpen doing lockdown stuff. Jose Leclerc, David Robertson, Kirby Yates, making it no drama in that one. A 5-2 victory. The runs coming, a lot of them from Wyatt Langford, who is definitely going to be September Rookie of the Month, maybe even AL Player of the Month, because he has been absolutely on fire to finish this season, giving a lot of reason for optimism for him heading into his sophomore year, that even though this season overall ends up pretty nice, I mean, you look at his overall Baseball Reference WAR numbers at the end of the season, he was the Rangers' 3rd best player, which was something that I was hoping for him this year, and after a rough start, didn't look like it was going to be possible. But with the combination of a rough final couple of months of the season for Josh Smith and an on-fire just final month of the season where Wyatt Langford looked absolutely unbelievably good, he ends up with a 3.7 Baseball Reference WAR in his rookie year, 11% better than league average with the bat. Marcus Semien did not quite get there to the 700 OPS mark for the season, but his OPS plus sits at exactly league average 100. Not ideal. One of the worst offensive seasons that he's had in quite some time, but still the defensive value ends with a 4-WAR season. Corey Seager still the leader with a 5-WAR season. I'm expecting a bit of an offensive bounce back for Marcus Semien next year. Maybe more off days will lead to that, but he finished his season on a tear as well. Marcus Semien had a great offensive final series of the season, a 3-hit day, including a home run in that Friday game. Also reached base 3 times on Saturdays. Absolute bonkers extravaganza where the Rangers rallied to come back and score 6 unanswered runs in the 8th and 9th innings combined. The final run being scored on a weird throwing error after a great pinch hit base knock, 2 RBI base knock, I should say, for Jonathan Ornelas. Great moment for him. Great moment for a couple rookies in that second game. But that Friday start, seeing Jacob deGrom out there the last time this season, seeing him just finish this year healthy, seeing what he looked like in Double A, getting to see that in person in his first rehab outing, getting to see what he looked like in Triple A, just Getting this guy back is so good for baseball, so important for the Texas Rangers, and every single one of his outings is just an absolute delight to watch. And I'm glad that even though they didn't end up being meaningful starts down the stretch, I would have much rather Jacob deGrom come back in the heat of a playoff race and maybe get a playoff start where he throws 90 to 100 pitches. Alas, that was not the case in this one, as he only threw those 4 innings, but still solid innings, finishes with no drama, finishes healthy, looking dominant against the Angels. Big win for the Rangers there. Just getting him out there, and hopefully this whole offseason is just normal offseason for Jacob deGrom. We head into the spring, and there's not some lingering whatever issue that we were dealing with the first season that he signed here of, okay, is this going to happen? Is this not going to happen? He's already had the surgery. The elbow has already gone kablooey. Now he can just come back, have a normal winter, a normal spring, and then look like the normal version of himself next year, which is the best freaking pitcher on the planet. Coming up, we're going to talk about an improbable comeback win, a couple of rookie debuts, and what could be Nathan Eovaldi's final start as a member of the Texas Rangers. Right after this word from our sponsors. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Right now, it is about to be World Series time. Right now, the favorites are the Los Angeles Dodgers at plus 350. Close second is the Phillies at plus 360. Then the Yankees plus 450. The Astros at plus 850, which is a little surprising to see them ahead of the Guardians, as the Guardians have a bye in the first round. That should be an interesting matchup in the AL wildcard round, which the Astros are playing the Tigers. Should be a fun month of baseball, postseason baseball. I have no idea who my favorite would be. I think I'm feeling pretty good about the Padres at plus 1,100, the 6th favorite, actually tied for the 5th favorite with the Guardians to win the World Series. So head over to FanDuel.com. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll be looking at the postseason picture, who I'm cheering for, some Rangers rooting interest, and just an overall playoff preview in general. We are officially in full-on off-season mode. Now, the Rangers had, before they went to their offseason, had one of the wildest, their biggest, and I'd say wildest comeback win on Saturday. Andrew Heaney's final start of the season, probably his final start as a member of the Texas Rangers. Just not a great outing for Heaney. He was sporting, I believe, a 4.98 ERA on the season before this game, and the 4 innings of 7-run ball that he led up in this one did not exactly help that out. It does not undermine what he did for the Rangers this season, going out there and starting every 5th day, being a huge member of this rotation, what he did, last year as well. I mean, he has been a big part of the Rangers this year. I mean, 32 games, 31 starts, 160 innings. I mean, he hasn't done that basically ever in his career outside of 2018 with the Angels. And, that was a long time ago. But Heaney was an integral part of this team this year. That is one of his worst starts of the year. But the Rangers offense said, that's fine. We got you, Andrew. We'll pick you up for the first time this season in a year where Andrew Heaney has gone out there and done fairly well in most of his starts, has a deeply losing record, and has never gotten almost any run support this year. I mean, he's 5-14, despite having a 4.28 ERA in 31 starts this year, and it's because the Rangers just never scored for Andrew Heaney. Until this game, the Rangers decided to have their biggest comeback win of the season. Just an offensive bonanza for the Rangers, mostly coming on late. A couple of runs in the 8th inning, 4 runs in the 9th inning with a couple of key pinch hits late in this one. great offensive day for Nathaniel Lowe, who finished his season much, much better than he started it, or even the middle part of his season. A pinch hit RBI triple from Jonah Heim, the slowest man on this team, where there wasn't even a throw into third base. That is probably one of the most unlikely plays that we will see this entire season. And of course, it happened at the very end of the season in a big, big moment. Pinch hitting for Dustin Harris against the lefty, and former Ranger Brock Burke driving in that run. The final run coming in on a base loaded play where Jonathan Ornelas pinch hits for Leody Taveras against the left-hander. He knocks it over the first baseman right into right field. The ball gets to the right fielder, and the right fielder just completely throws it away. And instead of being a 2 RBI game tying single, it's still only 2 RBIs, but 3 runs end up scoring. The Rangers take the lead. And of course, Kirby Yates comes in and slams the door shut, as he always does. His 33rd and final save on the season. Ends the year with a 1.17 ERA. And not to mention the other guys who also got their debuts, and the bullpen that held things together after a rough start from one of their most dependable starters in Andrew Heaney. Couple innings, just 1 run from Gerson Garabito, and that was the only run that this bullpen allowed. The only run in 5 innings of work. Pretty impressive. They got an MLB debut from Marc Church, getting his first career strikeout in a scoreless inning of work. Good to see him on the mound and healthy at the end of this year. He has missed most of this season. It looked like one of the most impressive Rangers pitchers in camp. I was dead certain that he was going to break camp with the Rangers and be a big part of this bullpen. Alas, that was not the case, but still makes his Major League debut at the end of the season. Also the Major League debut of Rangers DH, initials DH, Dustin Harris, getting his first MLB start. He worked a walk and went 0 for 2 with a strikeout. In that one was pinch hit for late by Jonah Heim, who ends up coming up big with that RBI triple that ended up being very, very important in the grand scheme of this game. But that wasn't the only action that Dustin Harris got in on. He got in on the Sunday start, a second game at DH. I'm a little surprised we didn't see him in the outfield, but that's neither here nor there. Seeing Ezekiel Duran out there in the outfield, I think, is kind of a show of how much they think he is important in this one moving forward, and to this team moving forward, I should say. But he got his first 2 hits in the Sunday game, a 2 RBI double for his first hit. Incredible hit by him. And then one of the more interesting first home runs I've ever seen. Not just that he hit a home run, because Dustin Harris will occasionally do that. He's got some decent power. Doesn't tap into it nearly as often as I would like, but the peculiarity of right field in Angels Stadium, with it being such a high right field wall, but the line for a home run is so low, seeing it the ball just bounce right over that home run line and below the scoreboard and get lost in there for his first ever big league home run. A great moment for the kid. A couple of hits, 3 RBIs in his second start in the big leagues ever. Just an awesome moment at the end of the year. You love seeing these kids get out there and get their feet wet for the first time in Major League Baseball. Now, is Dustin Harris going to be a member of the Rangers in 2025? I'm not sure. I honestly don't know. I would have thought yes, as recently as 2023. I mean, he looked great in Frisco that year. That was the second year he was in Frisco. Looked a little bit better in 2022 in Frisco at OPS north of 800. He's got great on-base skills. He's very fast, very athletic. He's got so much raw power in there. I mean, not like double plus or Joey Gallo levels of raw power, but occasionally when he gets into a ball, I mean, he can really get a hold of one and hit the crap out of it. But he doesn't do that nearly often enough. He doesn't impact the baseball nearly often enough for me to think that he is an everyday player. I'm not so sure about that. I mean, even his home run, 98.6 miles an hour off the bat. He's got good bat speed, fast swing, 79.4 miles an hour on that one. But still, would like to see him impact the baseball a little bit more. If that was the case, then Dustin Harris would have been up already. I mean, he's had a decent season in Round Rock, 564 4 plate appearances, nearly 750 OPS, 749, just a couple points short. Only a few points short of a 400 on base percentage for a guy with that kind of speed, but only 10 home runs in 131 games. Dustin Harris to be an MLB regular, heck, to even make the roster next year, I mean, he's going to have to impact the baseball harder and more frequently. Maybe that'll lead to more strikeouts. Maybe that'll lead to fewer walks and less on base, but he's just got to do that way more consistently. Did have 35 stolen bases this year. I mean, he is an avid runner and will run with frequency. I mean, the year before he had 41 stolen bases, and his defense out there has gotten much better in the outfield, but still not to a point where the Rangers wanted to put him out there in the outfield in a major league game. Granted, his first 2 major league games at the end of the year. Could have seen him out there in the field to see what he could do, but alas, none of that really matters. Seeing him get his MLB firsts with the Rangers, I thought he might get his MLB debut against Oakland, the team that drafted him and traded him to the Rangers all those years ago, but alas, that was not the case. Doesn't matter. Dustin Harris, you're a big leaguer for the rest of your life. Nobody can take that away from you, no matter what happens this offseason. Same for you, Marc Church, although I'm much more bullish on Marc Church being a factor on the 2025 Rangers than I am Dustin Harris. But still, seeing those kids get their big league debut in a season that has been incredibly frustrating, you just look for nice moments at the end of the year. That was absolutely one of those really great moments to finish the season on. Coming up with a look at Nathan Eovaldi's final start, what could be his final start in a Texas Rangers uniform, and a couple of guys having fantastic weekends, making me much more bullish on their bounce back in 2025. And some news about the Rangers TV situation, right after this word from our sponsors. This show is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is the easiest way to get tickets to all the live events you're wanting to get tickets for. I used the Gametime app just a couple weeks ago to go see Kumar Rocker's home debut. Even though his performance wasn't amazing, the seats and the prices were absolutely fantastic. Gametime makes it so easy to find your best tickets. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Gametime Picks curates it and makes it so much easier to save on sports, comedy, music, theater, and more. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. We'll be back on Wednesday's show, hopefully with Grant Schiller, maybe not, talking about the minor league season, what it looked like for the Rangers farm, what went right, what went wrong, and a little bit more on that episode on Wednesday. But the season is over, as is potentially, hopefully not actually, but potentially Nathan Eovaldi's tenure in Texas. Finishes off the season with the final start of the year. I thought this might be a possibility after his final start, what we all thought might be his final start on Tuesday against the Oakland A's. But alas, that was not the case. He had one more start in him, 7 innings of shutout ball against the hapless Angels offense, 5 strikeouts, just 1 walk, 4 hits, in what could be the final time we see Nate the Great Eovaldi in a Texas Rangers uniform. Finishes the year, he was right around Andrew Heaney in terms of his ERA before this final start of the year. Could have just, not made this final start, could have just headed off into free agency with that sub-4 ERA intact, but alas, no. He goes out there for one more start, 7 innings of shutout ball, finishes the year with 170 2/3 innings, the most he's had since 2021. He has only had more than 150 innings pitched in a season. Once in 2014, once in 2015, didn't do it again until 2021, then did it again this year. You could count it if he did it last year with his 30-something postseason innings. It got him over the 150 inning mark, but no. This could be the final time we see Nathan Eovaldi in a Texas Rangers uniform. Unfortunately, I don't think this is the last time we see him. I think the Rangers want to bring him back. I think he wants to come back. I think there are plenty of ways that the Rangers can make the money work to bring him back, and I think this should be their top priority. I know that his velocity was down in this one nearly a mile an hour. I think pitching him, in a 5-man rotation next year might be a little dicey. It's going to be his age 35 season. He turns 35 the day before Valentine's Day in February of next year. But this is going to be a highly sought after free agent. This is a guy who comes up huge in huge moments, a guy who always pitches better than his numbers look. I remember when the Rangers signed him, it was the most wrong I've been about, I think, any transaction the Rangers have ever made. I've been wrong about a lot of things. I've been right about a lot of things. I was very wrong about the Nathan Eovaldi trade. I thought that was dumb and unnecessary and superfluous, and that the Rays were going to burn the Rangers and they were going to get the better end of that deal. It was very wrong. Very wrong. Very sorry to the Nathan Eovaldi and his family and everyone who believed me on that. Grant and I were both very wrong on that. And when the Rangers signed Nathan Eovaldi, I wasn't against it by any means, but I just didn't see it. I didn't understand it. You look at a Baseball Reference page, I hadn't seen him start in that many games. I didn't really remember his postseason moments in 2018 when the Boston Red Sox won that World Series. I didn't really remember all that much. And seeing how my Boston Red Sox fan friends were reacting to losing Nathan Eovaldi, they were distraught. They were, beside themselves. We love this guy. This guy is amazing. This guy is, just absolutely beloved, treasured by Red Sox fans. And I was like, okay, it doesn't look that impressive. And then he comes out in his first month, and he wasn't very impressive for the Rangers that month either. And I thought, okay, well, it's nice to have extra depth, but this guy doesn't really do it for me. And then once Jacob deGrom goes down, and you see big game Nate in his first big game with that complete game shutout against the Yankees. And then what he did in all those other big moments, basically every start in that month of May where he was just absolutely on fire. Not only that, but, making it to the All-Star game, coming back and rehabbing at the big league level in a pennant chase to the point where it was really in question of what he would look like if the Rangers would even be starting him in a playoff game or how long he would go. And he goes out there and just dominates in every single playoff start. Just absolutely obliterates everyone en route to the Rangers' first World Series championship. And the Rangers needed him badly this year, and he stepped up for the most part. Not quite as impressive in the second half, but there weren't as many things to play for. This team was already basically decided. Their fate was already basically decided halfway through the month of August, unfortunately. But Eovaldi kept on stepping up. He kept on stepping up time and time again, not only on the mound, but in the dugouts with every single pitcher on this staff, helping everybody get better every single day. He is the ultimate teammate, and the Rangers will deeply, deeply miss him next year if he signs somewhere else, which is entirely possible. I think you can go ahead and throw out that hope of him taking the $20 million player option that he got from pitching over 300 innings combined this year and last year. There's no way anyone would pay him. The first contract offer he's going to get, I think, is probably around 2 years, $50 million. Then it might go up from there. Maybe I'm being a little bit aggressive, but the way this guy posts in the big games, the way that he shows up in those big moments and outperforms those stats, it is just such a veteran presence that he's going to dominate, whether his stuff is there at its peak or not in the playoffs, which it very much was not for the entirety of that playoff run where he was at his best. That is a valuable, valuable thing, and I'm sure that a lot of teams are pissed that the Rangers were more in it at the deadline, so they couldn't trade for Nathan Eovaldi, because look at every single one of these pitching staffs in the playoffs. I don't think there's a single one that wouldn't take Nate Eovaldi as, at worst, a Game 3 starter. Pretty much every single one of them, if not a Game 1 or a Game 2 starter. Everybody wants Nathan Eovaldi, and the Rangers should definitely want him the most this offseason and make that priority number 1. Actually, maybe it's priority 2. Because priority 1 is getting their money right, and a lot of that is going to come from the TV situation. The Rangers deal with Bally is officially up. They are what amounts to be free agents, and according to a report by the Sports Business Journal, it was on Thursday of last week, they said that Diamond Sports offered the Rangers competitive rights fees to remain with Bally Sports Southwest, but the team rejected it. They will be pursuing their own regional sports network model, similar to what the Stars are doing with Victory Plus, similar to what the Mavs are doing with their deal with, I believe it's with Tegna, with WFAA, broadcasting a lot of those games, just getting independence and their own, autonomy over their TV rights. A lot of their money comes from this TV deal. And right now, what Bally has done this year, in the last couple of years, having these rights, ever since Bally took over and renamed it from Fox Sports Southwest, there just did not seem to be a coherent plan other than jack up the prices and try and squeeze, TV companies, cable companies, into paying a lot more. And a lot of those companies balked and said no. And then that meant a lot of people in this area that are blacked out because of MLB blackout rules could not watch the Rangers. They just couldn't watch them because it was nearly impossible. There were, 3-4 options for anyone to be able to watch Rangers baseball. And if you're not wanting to pay $120, $150 a month or whatever for cable, which is understandable, just to watch the Rangers, it seemed a bit outlandish. I mean, this is 5 states that have the Rangers blocked out. Not the entirety of those states, but the entirety of 4 of them. If you're in Texas, if you're in Oklahoma, if you're in Arkansas, if you're in Louisiana, or big parts of New Mexico, not big parts, but big parts of the population, basically everywhere on the east end of New Mexico, you can't watch the Rangers, which is incredibly insane how difficult it has been. So the Rangers are going to be pursuing their own model to kind of get some kind of control back over that. I think it is the right move. It will be difficult for them to do. It will be probably expensive. It will take a while to get everything sorted out. I'm sure there will be some kinks in it. But if it's anything like what we've seen so far from the Stars and from the Mavs, I think just in general of getting your broadcasts into the homes of people who want to watch it, making it more accessible, making it easier for those people to watch your team, I can't see how that would be anything but incredibly beneficial for your team in the long haul of, generating interest. I mean, it's so hard to, generate interest in baseball in this state anyway. This is not, Josh Hamilton got, dinged for it when he said Dallas is not a baseball town. It's not. I can tell you, it's not. It is a Cowboys town. And then it is a Mavericks town. And then pretty far below that, then you get to the Rangers. They are very clearly third tier. And even though they are the only team to win a championship in the last decade of the major 4 or 5 sports, they're still well below those others. And this year, not building on that was not helpful. But I think that, hopefully bouncing back, having a much more competitive year in 2025 with whatever's happening with this broadcast. Bottom line is there's still a lot to figure out, but they're going to try and make it easier for you to watch the 2025 Rangers than it was to watch the 2024 Rangers and the years and years before that with all the Bally nonsense. But they are free of it, as we are free of, unfortunately, a disappointing 2024 regular season. I'm going to miss it, but I'm going to be soaking in every moment of postseason baseball and mainly just cheering against the teams that I want to fail. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank you all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.